Hi everyone, it's been 10 years since the financial crash in 2008, which sparked this period of crisis in the UK and a period of quantitative easing followed by austerity. And what we've seen in that time is the largest transfer of wealth in UK history. It started off with quantitative easing after 2008, where £435 billion so far, and counting, has been printed and put into the economy. That's what quantitative easing is. It's basically just the printing of money. We have a printing press, we can do it. 435 billion is quite a lot. It's quite a lot. It's £500 billion almost. If you think the size of the treasury, the size of the tax purse each year is worth about 700 billion or something like that, if I remember right. 435 billion and counting is a lot of money. But the way they put that into the economy, Mark Blythe, who I've talked about many times, he describes it, or he has heard it described this way. You want to put some water in the kettle. So instead of going over to the sink with the kettle, turning on the tap and filling the kettle with water, instead, in order to get water in the kettle, what they did metaphorically is shove a high pressure hose through the UK's letterbox, turned it on full in the hope that some of that water would find its way into the kitchen and where it needed to be in the kettle. But of course that didn't happen. What happened is it went everywhere and the rich scooped it up, to the point that when the UK came out of recession, which was roughly 5 years later, about 2013, 2014, workers' wages across the board were down £4 billion per year, but corporate profits were up £11 billion. That's just getting to the standard where, or the stage where we were in 2008, 5 years later. Already, you'd created a wealth gap, an inequality gap there. That's just getting back to 2008 levels. And since then, we have seen budgets from the Conservatives since 2015 that are further and are going to further increase that largest transfer of wealth in history. It's going to get bigger in the next 5 years. And the reason I say this, I brought up this article in The Guardian. It was a good article this was on the most recent budget that happened this week. And I said in a video, there's only one statistic you need to look at here, and that's the one in paragraph 4. The overall package of tax and benefit changes announced since 2015 will deliver an average gain of £390 for the richest fifth of households in 2023 to 24. So it's 5 years from now. So the average, the top fifth of households in 5 years will see an average gain of £390, but the bottom fifth will see an average loss of £400. So essentially, you could make the argument that they have took £400 from the poorest fifth of households, and within 5 years, they will have given that to the richest fifth. Here's the graph. Here's the little pie chart that I've found. The top fifth already own 40% of all the money, and the bottom fifth only own 8% of all the wealth. But still the Tories are transferring wealth from the bottom fifth to the top. This is just carrying on. This system is broken, is the point I want to make. Not only is this transfer of wealth carrying on, it's going to get worse because of the system we have created. I'll get onto that in a bit, but I want to come to this from the Equality Trust. UK rich increased their wealth by 274 billion over 5 years. This is from March this year. The Equality Trust warns of a wealth inequality crisis as UK rich increased their wealth by 274 billion over the last 5 years. Analysis by the Equality Trust can today reveal that the richest 1,000 people in the UK have increased their wealth by 66 billion in the last year, have increased their wealth by 274 billion in the past 5 years, and increased their wealth to a staggering sum of £724 billion, which is significantly more than the poorest 40% of households who have a combined wealth of 567 billion. They've got 40% more almost than the bottom 40% of households. That's just the top 1,000 people. And I've got to read this quote because it's excellent, this quote is. This is from Dr. Wanda Wiporska. I'm sorry if I pronounced the name wrong. I think it's a Polish name. And she, I assume it's a she, Dr. Wanda, Executive Director of the Equality Trust, she said this. Brilliant this is. Our annual wealth tracker research in recent years reveals that a vast amount of the nation's wealth has been captured by a tiny number of people. This is economically illiterate, socially poisonous, and politically dangerous, and draws a harrowing picture of UK inequality. It should be a source of national shame. You're damn right it should. At the same time, many will be wondering why they have not seen their wages increase over the last 5 years, or why, despite working hard and working long hours, they are struggling to put food on the table. The UK's appalling wealth inequality is a gross injustice and a dire threat to our economy and social cohesion. If wealth continues to gush upwards, then opportunity and hope for the future generations will steadily be strangled. This is a recipe for resentment, social division, and potentially disaster. This fawning over obscene wealth is downright scandalous in a society where food bank use, child poverty, and inequality are damaging lives on a daily basis. Dr. Wanda Wiporska, I couldn't have said that better myself. And I want to pay particular attention to something there. This is a recipe for resentment, social division, and potential disaster, she says. Mark Blythe, again, has a great saying on this. The Hamptons is an indefensible position. You know, the Hamptons, upstate New York, this is what he tells his hedge fund buddies who are worth billions. The Hamptons, low-lying beaches in an upstate part of New York, indefensible position. Eventually the people will come for you. And then the last bit there, she says, this fawning over obscene wealth is downright scandalous in a society where food bank use, child poverty, and inequality are damaging lives on a daily basis. You're not wrong, because I'll get to that in a second. Here is the graph you can see, so you can see all the evidence. You can see combined wealth, 724 billion in that chart. It was 450 billion in 2013. Incidentally, if you go back to 2009, since 2008, 2009, the top 1,000 people in the UK have tripled their wealth. Tripled it. So, back to what Wanda was saying there, the fawning over obscene wealth is downright scandalous. Well, they do it in the Telegraph every year, and they've done it just recently. Rich list, Jim Radcliffe named as UK's richest man and record number of women among the 1,000 wealthiest, it says. Just want to read a little bit of this, and then I want to give you some examples of what this broken system that we have creates. It's the system that is broken, and it creates and rewards the worst among us. A record number of women have made it into the list of the 1,000 richest people in Britain this year, with 141 female millionaires making the cut, it starts. Great. You know, isn't it wonderful that equality can now make women exploit the poor and the powerless? The country's richest woman is Charlene. Just look at who they are, though. This is the thing. The country's richest woman is Charlene de Carvalho Heineken, 63, who runs the family Heineken beer business. She inherited her position and stake in the company from her father, Freddie Heineken, when he died in 2002. So automatically, she's not a self-made millionaire or billionaire or anything like that. She got her money from Daddy. And no doubt he hid it in all sorts of places, so tax wasn't paid on it in the UK. You can bet your ass that happened. But look at who she is married to. They're always married to, you know, unscrupulous people. Look at Theresa May. Look who she married to. A guy who's literally profiting with his hedge funds from Raytheon and Boeing and Lockheed Martin. And cannabis. She appears on the list alongside her husband, it says, this article does. Citigroup banker Michelle, 73, with a fortune of 11 billion. So she's married to somebody from Citigroup. One of the very people that crashed the economy in 2008. And who are the people paying for it? The poorest people. They're the people paying for that crisis still. And then you look. I just looked at the top 3 people, the richest 3 people in this country, and then I honestly gave up because you want to pull your hair out. I'm going to laugh and joke about this because it's the only way I can cope. Jim Radcliffe is the richest, number 1, 21 billion. Jim Radcliffe was at 18, it says in the Telegraph. It was at 18 on the list last year, but the compiler said this was down to the success of Ineos, his company, and the availability of further detail of the business, some of whose wealth is in the form of 2 super yachts, hotel interests in the New Forest, and a property portfolio. So he's obviously doing well and he's enjoying life. Mr. Radcliffe made his money on the chemicals industry as the founder of Ineos Group. I immediately thought, were any of those chemicals found in Khan Shakun? But that's just the way my warped mind works. He remains in chief executive majority owner, and then it says this at the bottom, just, matter of factly, and just, well, by the way, he's doing this. His firm is currently locked in a legal battle with the Scottish Government over its moratorium on fracking. Moratorium, just in case, you are confused. I didn't know what that word meant either. I'd heard it before. I thought, what does moratorium mean again? Remind me. So I had to look it up. It being the Telegraph, they obviously have to put a word in there that confuses idiots like me. Moratorium basically means temporary ban. So the richest person in the country is suing the Scottish Government because they have a temporary ban on fracking, and he wants to get in there and make a shitload more money. Doesn't matter about the earthquakes that it causes or the effect in the environment or any of that crap. Is it 3 earthquakes now that have been caused by the first fracking place that's been opened in this country over the last few months? 3 earthquakes. And he's suing the Scottish Government because they've got a ban on fracking in the Highlands. And he wants to make money from it, no doubt. That's number 1. Number 2 is Sri and Gopi Hinduja. I apologise if I got your name wrong, fellas, but hey, I'm sure you can afford the occasional name being spoken wrong. The Hinduja brothers have dropped 1 place after topping the list last year, but their fortune still jumped by 4.4 billion in 2017 with their India-based car manufacturer Ashok Leyland. It used to be British Leyland, that didn't it? And Mumbai-based IndusInd Bank having a particularly successful year. But where is their money invested, I wonder? Well, the Telegraph tell you at the bottom there, the Hinduja Group has investments in oil and gas, IT, energy, media, banking, property and healthcare. So they've got their fingers in the pies of the fossil fuel industry, the media industry, propagandizing everybody on, fossil fuels and global climate change, in the banking industry to oversee, obviously, a further transfer of wealth towards them from the poorest fifth. Property, making sure that property prices are obviously way out the reach of any normal average person in this country, and healthcare, so no doubt they've probably got their fingers in pies of companies that are trying to sell off and privatise the NHS. That is what I'm taking from this. And I know many people reading that will be taking the same, or making the same assumptions. But number 3, this guy tops them all. The 3rd richest person in the country. His name is Solen Blavatnik. £15 billion. He's made his money when he sold his stake in a Russian oil company. Well, what's he doing with his money? That's the thing. This is Russian oil baron. What's he doing? Solen Blavatnik, 60, was knighted this year for services to philanthropy. Oh, great! He'd given loads of his money away. He got his knighthood for it. Where did he give it? Did he give it to the poor and the needy? No. His recent donations include £50 million to fund the Tate Modern's new wing, £5 million towards the Victoria and Albert Museum's new entrance, as well as funding the Blavatnik School of Government at Oxford University. So he's given £100 million away to rich bastards at the Tate Modern, rich bastards at the Victoria and Albert Museum, and rich bastards at Oxford University, and in return he got a school of government named after him at Oxford and a knighthood. Capitalism, this system, it doesn't reward the best among us. It doesn't. This system is broken. It's the system that needs to change, because we have created the inverse of the system that we had under the New Deal from World War II onwards up until neoliberalism took hold. We've created almost the reverse of that system. The system is broken. We have a system that rewards the worst among us. It rewards the most ruthless. It rewards the most selfish. It rewards, as they get wealthier, they become less and less empathic. Studies have showed this. They can't read people's facial expressions. They have no empathy for people and what they're going through. And it rewards people who are the least honest and have the least morals. And you can branch that out to the larger and the financial system of the globe as well with the petrodollar. The petrodollar is something that you never hear on the BBC. You never hear them make a big deal out of it, but it should be a big deal. It is a big deal. Now, the petrodollar counterpart, it was actually FDR that set the wheels in motion for it, because he took the dollar, their reserve currency, off what was known as the bread and mud standard and put it on the gold standard. But the Federal Reserve, being the Federal Reserve and the law unto itself that it is, didn't just print the money that they had in reserve in gold, because the price of an ounce was in dollars. And they had to hold that gold, the amount of gold. You get the point. But they just printed the money. They didn't have the gold. They just carried on printing the money. And when the international community found out that essentially they were holding bits of paper that were attached to nothing and valued at nothing, they were pretty pissed at it. It caused a bit of outrage. And it caught up with them during the early 1970s, 71 to 73, I think it was. And in that time, that's when, in response, instead of saying, oh, how bad, we'll fix this, they just said, oh, sod this, and threw the gold standard overboard and jumped on the petrodollar and attached it to the price of oil. And the person that Nixon sent to Saudi Arabia to strike this deal, by the way, Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger was the one who oversaw the deal to put the dollar on the petrodollar and attach it to the very product that is responsible for all the wars and all the destruction in the world, and is causing, let's face it, the literal choking of the planet, choking us out of existence, is accelerating that. The system is broken. Henry Kissinger, by the way, on the board of the Atlantic Council, or as I like to call them, the Ministry for Truth. As long as we continue with this system, the system as it is, as it stands, our monetary system, and it doesn't matter. Nothing will change. It doesn't matter whether you have a Conservative government or a Labour government. Nothing will change. We need a drastic overhaul of the way we do things, and somebody to lead us with the vision to actually do it. It needs a visionary, not somebody who's just trying to work from within the system and within the constraints of the system, because the system, as I see it, is broken and we need a new one. I think that's everything I wanted to cover. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you can, please subscribe, click like, click share, and of course you can always support me on Patreon. I can't continue to do this without your help. Thanks very much. Till next time, peace and take care.